Yes, it's a Kia. Yes, you might want one. No, this Gran Turismo model isn't merely a copy of something German. Welcome to the Kia Stinger, here usefully improved. The looks don't lie.
Back in 2017, we were offered a very different kind of Kia. The Stinger was a 5-door performance GT that took on the German premium brands in the luxury sports Gran Turismo market. Since then, it's worked well as a rare but desirable halo model for the Korean brand, and a respectable 10,000 global units of the original version were sold, enough to justify a facelift in 2021, which brought us the car we look at here, a model with some useful updates. It featured a slightly smarter look, a few minor handling tweaks, much improved media connectivity and a big safety upgrade. And this updated version became an even rarer sight because the range was centred only on this top variant, the priciest, most powerful V6 petrol-engined GTS derivative. That was never likely to sell in any significant numbers, and so it proved. The end result being the end of Stinger sales for UK customers in the autumn of 2022. This car effectively replaced by Kia's even faster 577 brake horsepower all-electric EV6 GT. The Stinger, though, will be a car we'll remember, so let's take one last look at this updated version and subject it to the usual thorough car and driving road test. With this revised Stinger model, the only variant still available is the GTS we always liked the most, fitted out with a growly, potent twin-turbo 3.3-litre TGDI petrol V6. Due to emissions updates, this unit's 361 bhp output is a fraction less than before, but it still sounds great, and the performance figures are little different. 62 miles an hour dispatched in just 4.7 seconds, on the way to 168 if you're quick, with the smooth 8-speed automatic transmissions, steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. As before, this powertrain offers a lusty 510 newton-meters of torque, starts pulling from just 1500 revs, and really gets into its sweet spot between 3,000 and 4,000 RPM, clearing its throat with the aid of a mildly contrived audio system soundtrack that broadcasts responses to your right foot if you switch into one of the sporty driving modes. As is usual with setups of this kind, there are two dynamic settings on offer, Sport and Sport Plus, though to use the second of these, you'll need to be feeling a little brave. That's because Sport Plus restricts stability control assistance, which means it's quite easy to get the rear end squirming playfully about with a quick and deliberate jab on the throttle. That reminds you of the Stinger's proper old-school rear-wheel driven configuration. The original Stinger was the first Kia ever propelled from the back axle. Well, it was for the UK anyway. Left-hand drive markets always had the Stinger GTS with all-wheel drive, a format that continues to be unavailable here for reasons that Kia vaguely explains away by citing differences in packaging. We've always felt, though, that drive from the rear rather suits this Stinger's old-school feel, originally developed by a team led by ex-BMW M-car engineer Albert Biermann. Thankfully, not much has changed with that, apart from a slight retuning of the adaptive dampers, a subtle revision to the surprisingly responsive power steering, and a switch from Continental Sport Contact 5 tyres to Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber. To compensate for the lack of all-wheel drive, the brand continues to standardise a limited slip differential across the range for our market, and this in concert with a torque vectoring system that lightly brakes the inside front wheel at speed through fast corners, means that the Stinger remains impressively adept at overcoming its rather portly 1,890 kilo body weight and hurling itself from bend to bend should you be inclined to drive it in such a fashion. Ultimately, this is a GT rather than a super sports saloon, a poor man's BMW M5, if you like. The Stinger is that good, was and still is. It's still almost everything you wouldn't expect a Kia to be. As before, this model is a Gran Turismo style 5-door sports hatch, aimed at the quickest versions of slinky premium badge models like Audi's A5 Sportback and BMW's 4 Series Gran Coupe. Plus also perhaps 4-door saloons with coupe-like rear styling, like sportier variants of Volkswagen's Arteon. Kia reckons that this GT model styling evokes memories of the classic age of Grand Tourers. Whatever your perspective on that, it's difficult to argue that this remains one of the most strikingly styled Kia models we've seen to date. Not much has changed at the front, where, as before, the bonnet sports fake vents and the Stinger's tiger nose grille sits between LED headlights. But the turn signals below those lamps are now composed of 10 individual LED units arranged in a checkered flag-like grid pattern. From the side, you'll notice the restyled 19-inch alloy wheels with their Brembo brake calipers. This Ascot green paint shade's new as well. And at the rear, redesigned combination LED tail lamps stretch across the full width of the car with a more distinctive light signature, mimicking the shape of the subtle spoiler integrated into the boot lid. It certainly feels very opulent inside, where a proper level of screen tech has finally arrived for Stinger folk. If you happen to be familiar with the restricted 8-inch centre monitor of the original model, you'll welcome this much more impressive 10.25-inch centre stack infotainment screen, which resides just above these 3 rather unique jet engine style centre vents. All the latest Hyundai Motor Group media tech resides on this updated monitor, including a Kia Live section that can brief you on traffic flow and filling station info on your journey, along with parking information for your destination. And the Kia Connect section that offers a calendar, weather info and vehicle diagnostic menus. The chrome-bezeled instrument cluster remains defiantly analogue, but the 2 gauges are separated by a clear 7-inch screen that delivers most of what you need to know. And you view it all through a chunky, flat-bottomed, leather-stitched 3-spoke wheel. This being a facelift, there are no changes to cabin architecture, but the dash and doors gain smarter contrast stitching. The centre console is finished in aluminium. There's a metallic finish to sections of the steering wheel. A frameless rear view mirror has been added, and you now get a 64-colour mood lighting system. Upgraded materials also feature, though there are still rather too many shiny plastics and some of the faux leather doesn't look very realistic. But all the areas you regularly touch feel properly premium. There's a decent 15-speaker Harman Kardon audio system, the blue background strip lighting is classy, and you get black premium Napa leather upholstery. It's not especially easy to get into the low-slung back seat. But once you do, rear seat space is acceptable by class standards, with adequate legroom, even for taller adults. Despite the coupe-like roofline, you shouldn't struggle for headroom either. What's on offer here can't match the palatial standards of a rival Volkswagen Arteon, but it certainly outclasses competitors from Audi and BMW. Out back, the powered tailgate is of the sort you can access with a wave of your foot below the bumper. And once it's raised, there's a 406-litre boot. Its shallowness accounts for the 74-litre deficit over what you get in a rival Audi A5 Sportback. Still, that should be sufficient for the needs of most owners. And if you flatten the 60-40 split rear bench, you'll free up a modest 1,114 litres of total capacity. By 2021, the previous entry-level 2-litre petrol and 2.2-litre diesel Stinger variants have been discontinued, and this Stinger now sat quite a lot further up market, though the asking price of just over £45,000 for the single GTS V6 petrol model offered wasn't a lot different from what it had been before. If you consider that a comparably performing Audi S5 Sportback costs around £53,000, that'll put things in perspective. As always, Kia offered you quite a lot of kit for the money, including 19-inch alloy wheels, Brembo brakes electronic controlled suspension, a smart powered tailgate and a wide sunroof. Media connectivity is taken care of by a 10.25-inch navigation screen featuring Kia Connect services so that you can interact with your Stinger via your smartphone. There's also a Bluetooth multi-connection that enables users to connect up to 2 mobile devices at the same time, maybe one for hands-free phone use and one for multimedia. And as before, this infotainment setup offers Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring, and a voice control system that can enable you to alter things like climate, audio and navigation settings. Lots of changes have been made to driver assist and safety technology with this car. The forward collision avoidance assist system now works when turning across the road at junctions. The lane keeping assist setup can now detect road edges as well as centre markings. The blind spot collision avoidance assist system now not only warns you of vehicles in your blind spot, but applies braking if necessary to avoid them. The traffic sign recognition system can now be set to work with the speed limiter. The driver attention warning system now has a higher speed range. Navigation-based smart cruise control slows you if you enter a highway corner too fast, and the car's rear cross traffic collision avoidance assist system can now proactively brake to avoid impacts. On top of that, the Stinger now gets a safe exit warning system, alerting occupants if they're about to open their doors in the face of oncoming traffic. There's also now a lane following assist system which keeps the car in the centre of its lane, and a highway driving assist setup that helps you maintain a set distance to the car in front. A rear occupant alert feature warns you to check the back seat when leaving the car. And the instrument cluster's digital display now incorporates Kia's cutting-edge blind spot view monitor that delivers a video feed within the instrument display when you indicate to turn or change lane. It's all very reassuring. The efficiency figures recorded here aren't bad, but they still illustrate that this South Korean brand has a little way to match its German competitors in this regard. Let's get to the WLTP figures. For the 3.3-litre T-GDI GTS model, the only one now on offer, you're looking at 28 miles per gallon and 229 grams per kilometre. As with all Kias, the Stinger is covered by a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty that's longer than any other car in the same class. If the car is sold through a Kia used approved dealership when less than 18 months old or with less than 18,000 miles on the clock, the warranty will be topped up to match that of a new model. Servicing should be affordable, and the various prepaid servicing packages you can buy will further help manage costs in this regard, with Care 3 or Care 3 Plus packages offering retail customers fixed cost, inflation-proof servicing for either 3 or 5 years. Insurance is Group 42D. Think of everything you expect a Kia to be. Bet you're not thinking of anything like this. But then that's just the point. The Stinger was designed to get you thinking differently. It's arguably more stylish than rival Audi A5 Sportback, BMW 4 Series Gran Coupe and Volkswagen Arteon models. It's certainly much better value, will be better equipped and will probably offer you a lot more performance for your money. True, efficiency figures aren't quite up to Teutonic standards, and the boot is a little smaller than rival trunks. But otherwise, this design is impressively hard to fault. With this revised model, we were disappointed that lower order variants had been deleted from the range and that you still couldn't have four-wheel drive in this top V6 GTS version that remained. This revised model's upgraded cabin and much improved ADAS drive assist technology certainly felt more appropriate for the required and quite exalted price point. But otherwise, things were much as before. In driving it, we continue to like the Stinger very much and much regret its passing. This car saw Kia laying claim to be a world-class manufacturer. Its replacement, the EV6 GT, picked up where this model left off, but there's still nothing quite like a Stinger, and maybe there won't ever be.